quite often in winter we are just after bites. You know, quite often we come along to venues like this where the water clarity is clear. This is a mixed fishery, it's a day ticket water, there are carp and silverfish in here, but I think it's quite fair to say that sometimes we get a little bit obsessed with the use of ground bait on today's feeder fishing scene. And so today I'm going to be tackling this open water peg where I'm going to be fishing for anything that swims, but I'm not going to be using ground bait. I'm going to be tackling different areas of the peg for lots of different species, and I'm going to be using the maggot feeder. Quite often fish simply just don't want ground bait, you know, and it's quite easy. I know it is. There are so many different ground bait mixes out there, and it's such a hot topic for so many people that sometimes we automatically just fish a ground bait feeder and don't really give much thought to whether the fish actually want ground bait in the first place. Over the last 2 winters, I've certainly seen a little bit of a trend in certain circles, certainly in the Midlands, where there are 1 or 2 venues there now where they have kind of realised that when it's fishing really hard, there are 1 or 2 venues where you can fish with a maggot feeder and actually catch fish. Obviously it's a lot less selective than using ground bait, and it tends to be and coincide with when the water clarity is really rather clear. Again, we keep talking about the crossovers between pole fishing and float fishing and crossing that over into our feeder fishing. And if somebody said to you, we're just going to fish today for bites, just try and catch anything, what is the best way of presenting the bait and what bait would you be using? Quite often, I think most people would say the pole and maggot. You know, loose feeding maggots, it can be such a fantastic way of fishing in winter, and on a waggler as well. So if it's going to work in float fishing and in pole fishing, why not take that over into our feeder fishing? So the maggot feeder can really just catch anything that swims. Now there are loads of different styles and patterns out there on the market, made by lots and lots of different brands, and there's 1 or 2 tweaks that you can do during a session when you're fishing cold water like this in order to keep bites coming, and just think about the way that your feeder is actually emptying. Now fishing in winter by its very nature usually means that the water is a lot colder. Now the key to the way that a maggot feeder works is that the maggots are live and they actually riddle out of the feeder. So if the water temperature is really cold, that's obviously going to affect the way that the maggots exit the feeder. Now there are different ways that you can actually encourage the maggots to empty from the feeder, and one of them is just simply by opening the holes on the feeder. Certain feeder materials are better for doing that, and you can just do that with a pair of scissors. Really nice and simple. Just put the point of the scissors into the hole, and just by rotating the blade of the scissors, that will open out the hole. And what that will do is that will just make it easier for the maggots to exit the feeder, so they will empty quicker. Okay. The key with that is that's great if you're fishing shallow water, and if you want maggots to come out much quicker, then that's a great way of doing that. But don't forget, if you're fishing in deep water, that will also encourage the maggots to empty from the feeder as it's actually falling through the water as well. So that is a way of, yes, it's a great way of allowing the maggots to exit the feeder quicker, but it can also be a way of encouraging maggots to fall through the water as well, which again is a way of trying to trigger bites during winter just by having some loose feed falling through the water. And that's a great method if you're targeting eyed or roach or chub even, which, you know, is quite a common species that we see on today's commercial fisheries. So if you're fishing in deeper water, just think about that, because that can be a great way of trying to trigger some extra bites. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of open water. We've got a bit of a breeze coming it now. It's a very cold breeze coming left to right. Now I'm not going to go over here to the left. All right, so I'm going to kick off at about 25 meters, which is about where my finger is there. Okay, so that's the deepest point. I'm going to kick off there, deepest water, and then I've got the option of working my way further across if need be. I've also got a cast over here. Now that in summer is really a hot spot. It's really shallow up there. It really shallows up to about a foot, probably 2 foot, about the same distance away from that bank. So I have got the option of working my way across over there towards that other bank, because that could obviously be a key area where any fish might back off to later on in the session. But I'm going to kick off straight in front of me, about 25 meters just here on the clip, and just see what kind of reaction I get. And obviously if I don't catch anything there, I can then just take the clip off and work my way further out, and then obviously round to the right if need be. But we'll see what reaction we get at 25 meters first, and then just take it from there. Well, there are some fish feeding, which is great. I mean, that's just a beautiful little roach. As you'd expect on these sorts of venues, when you're fishing with maggots, you know, you're going to catch anything. But that's good. I've caught probably half a dozen there now. But I think it's time to change. They are all that same size. And in a match, I wouldn't really be happy with those. I'd want some bigger fish mixed in. And I haven't really had any signs of bigger fish being there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unclip and start working my way across to that other bank. Just work my way across, because I'm sure there might be some bigger eyed, possibly a chub or two, because I know there are chub in here. And obviously, you know, at any stage we might hook a carp as well. So I'm going to work my way across towards that other bank now. Not into the really shallow water, but just work my way across and just see if I can find one or two better stamp fish. Well, that was instant. I don't think there's anything on. But I've just got about 2 meters off that far bank. I'm calling it far bank, it's a right hand bank. I've come 2 meters away. Yeah, the maggot's smashed. Basically what I've done is, when I was fishing at 25 meters, I've got about 5 second count of depth there. I've just gone 2 meters off that right hand bank, and that's already now in 2.5 seconds, so it's literally half the depth, and that's a bite first cast. 2 white maggots on. I've no idea what it was. I'm guessing there might be small roach again, I don't know, but the interesting thing is that I'm now at half the depth that I was fishing at before. Well, the rig that I love to use for this is just a really nice, simple, free-running rig, okay? And that obviously complies with all fishery rules. This is a setup of, I've got a 3000 Horizon reel, and that's just coupled really nice with a 3.3 meter Horizon slim rod. Just a nice, soft, balanced setup. I've got 6 pound Horizon mono mainline, okay? And then I've got onto that, threaded onto that, just a snap link swivel. Alright, and that is obviously where I attach the feeder. All I've got below that then is just a rubber stopper which is slid onto the line, okay? The great thing with that is it doesn't damage the line in any way, so you're not giving any sort of weakness or building any weakness into the rig, because that is just pulled onto the line. And it's also really light as well, so when the fish picks up the bait and, you know, hopefully takes the bait and runs away, it's not feeling anything. It's not like it's a shot or a stop. It's really, really light rubber, so it's not going to feel anything. So again, it's just trying to make your rig a little bit more sensitive. And then underneath that, I've just got an extra piece of line there, and I've just got my hook length attached loop to loop. Okay, I'm kicking off today, and just like most sessions like this, with a 50cm hook length, which is 0.11. And I've just got that through to a size 16 barbless hook, and that is it. A really nice, super simple setup. I reckon it's an eyed. I'm going with eyed. It's very much similar to a chub as well, but that's what eyed are. It's definitely not a roach. So I'm gonna say he's a little eyed. Very confident bite, and I'm hoping that's going to increase now. Now we're putting more bait in, fishing a lot more confident, a lot more positive. Lovely little fish. Lovely fish to finish on. Just look at the mouth on that. We know how greedy chub are. Huge, huge mouths. Pop that there, but that's a lovely fish to finish on. It's really, really cold. Could tell it was a different species as soon as we hooked it. But brilliant fish to catch. Don't catch enough chub. A lot of the venues I fish just simply haven't got them in. So we used to catch them on the rivers years and years ago, and back then it was a case of if you step it up with maggots and put more maggots in, double maggot on the hook, these are the fish that we used to catch quite often, certainly on the rivers Trent and some of the other rivers. But beautiful fish to finish on. It's been slightly unplanned, unscripted. I didn't know what was going to happen today, and the interesting thing is that the first thing was we were catching small fish, and not many of them in that deeper water at 25 metres. We then moved to the spot that we're in now, which is 2 metres off that right hand bank, and it's half the depth there than what it was at 25 metres when I was fishing straight in front of me. So we fish very less selective today. We fish maggots, which can catch anything, as we know, but I've still had to go looking for the fish and find out what depth they were going to be in. It's been a great session. We've had to vary the feed, and the more feed that I put in, the better reaction I get, and the bites have been quicker. And we've also had to change hook size as well. Soon found that double maggot was best, and double maggot on a 16, really, these are fresh maggots from Wickersley Angling this morning, and they are really big maggots, lovely fresh maggots. And on a size 16, the 16 just looked too small for double maggot, so I've switched up to a 14, and that's just made the whole rig a lot more efficient, because I haven't missed a bite since I did that. The bites are really nice and positive now. Every fish is on. And obviously if I'd hooked any carp or anything, which I haven't, that obviously would have given me a better chance of landing those fish as well, which is something we need to think about when we're fishing on commercials like this. So I hope you've enjoyed this bit of an insight into this way of fishing. It's a method that works up and down the country on commercials and natural waters, and I know that some of the big matches I've got coming up, going through February and March, I will be fishing like this at some stage, because it's just so effective in winter when you're fishing clear water venues like this. So I hope you've enjoyed this bit of an insight. I've got loads and loads of live matches coming up through this year, and I'm filming just about all of them for you. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those, just please hit subscribe. And if you want to see more in-depth coaching, tuition style videos, ones where I go more in depth about the type of tackle I use, why I use it, and how I prepare for matches, and how I come up with tactics for tackling some of these matches, which are quite frankly some of the biggest ones in Europe. So if you want to see any videos like that, then you might want to check out my other channel, Patron TV. The web address is in the bottom left hand corner for you, and there is a link at the end of the video, so you might want to have a look at that channel. So thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed this bit of an insight, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.